I'm not comfortable sharing my real name, but you can call me Mark. What I'm about to tell you is completely true. This happened about 2 years ago when I was living inside a medium-sized city in the Midwest. Nothing special about the place. Strip malls, chain restaurants, the kind of traffic that somehow exists even at midnight. I was between decent jobs at the time and picked up overnight security work through a temp agency. It paid just enough to keep the rent covered, and the shifts were quiet, usually. The site they sent me to was outside city limits, maybe 20 minutes down a 2-lane highway that turned into empty stretches of land. The business was some kind of distribution warehouse. I never went inside. All I was told was the workers were on strike, and the company wanted a guard present overnight in case of vandalism. My entire job was to sit in my car in the parking lot and walk the perimeter once an hour, every hour. That was it. The first night I remember thinking it would be the easiest money I've ever made. The warehouse sat by itself, a long, low building with no other businesses nearby. No street lights. Hell, no lights at all, except the ones mounted high on the building walls. They casted wide cones of yellow light that didn't quite reach the edges of the lot. Beyond that, it was just open land and darkness. I parked facing the building like I was told. Engine off, windows partway up, doors locked. The night air out there felt different than in the city. Still, like the world had stopped moving. I checked my phone. Midnight. I had a clipboard with a sheet to log each patrol. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., and so on. Walk the property, check the doors, look for damage. The usual stuff, routine. For the first hour, nothing happened. I scrolled on my phone, leaned my seat back a little. Every now and then I'd look up at the building just to remind myself where I was. The light hummed faintly. That was the only sound out there. Around 12:40, I remember feeling off. Not scared, just aware of how alone I truly was. No cars passing on the road, no wind, no symphony of insects. Hell, even the usual background noise from the city that you don't even notice wasn't even there. It felt like sitting in a paused video. I told myself I was just overthinking it. New place, middle of nowhere, that's all. At exactly 12:58, I set my phone down to get ready for the first patrol. That's when it happened. Something had slammed against the driver's side rear window. Not a knock, not a tap, just bangs. Fast, hard, like someone hitting the glass with both hands as fast as they could. I yelled, actually yelled, and jerked toward the door. My heart went from normal to sprinting in a second. I whipped my head to the left, expecting to see a face right there against the glass. But there was nothing. Just my own reflection and the yellow light from the building. I froze, staring at the window, waiting for a second round. My ears were ringing from the adrenaline. I was breathing hard. The type of breathing like you just finished a run. Okay, I muttered. More to hear a human voice than anything. Okay. I leaned forward and looked past the side mirror, scanning the lot. Empty. The asphalt stretched out smooth and undisturbed. No movement, no cars, no person running away. I checked the back seat out of pure instinct. Empty. With shaky hands, I turned on my flashlight, shining it through the glass. Nothing close enough to have made that sound. No branches, no debris. Hell, I was parked in the middle of the parking lot. I wasn't near anything. I sat there for a long time just listening, waiting for footsteps or the sound of someone breathing heavy. Nothing came. After a few minutes, embarrassment started creeping in. Maybe something hit the car, a bird, debris from the sky that may have hit the roof. I don't know. My brain was already trying to smooth it out, trying to make it make sense. I looked down at my watch. 1:05 a.m. I still had to do the patrol. Getting out of the car felt like stepping into deep water. The air was colder than before. I locked the doors behind me, even though I'd only be gone for a few minutes, and started walking alongside the building. My boots sounded way too loud on the pavement. The warehouse walls were metal, painted a dull gray. My flashlight beam slid over them, over loading dock doors, over security cameras that I doubted anyone was watching at that hour. I kept replaying the pounding in my head, the speed of it, the force. I told myself, if someone had done that, they would have still been there. You would have seen them. Halfway down the side of the building, something caught my attention. A woman's voice. "Excuse me, sir." I stopped mid-step. My stomach dropped so fast, it almost hurt. The voice wasn't loud, not shouting, just polite, normal. I turned slowly, already speaking. "Yes?" The light from my flashlight swung around with me. There was no one there, just the side of the building and the parking lot stretching out into the darkness beyond the light. I stood there, the words still halfway in my throat. "Hello," I called out, my voice coming out thinner than I expected. No answer. I took a few steps back the way it had come, scanning everywhere with the light could reach. Under trucks, in the woods, nothing. I told myself maybe it came from the road, maybe someone walked by. But there was no sidewalk, no houses, no reason for anyone to be out there on foot at 1 a.m. And the voice hadn't echoed. It had been at ear level, close enough that I'd answered without thinking. I finished the patrol faster than I should have. I checked the doors without actually checking them. I just wanted to be back in my car. When I shut the door behind me and locked it, I felt a wave of relief that didn't make sense for such a small space. I didn't like being outside right now. The second hour dragged on. I kept the interior light off, just sitting in the dark, with the building lights outside. Every few minutes, I'd glance at the driver's side window, half expecting something to appear. Nothing did. I tried music, but turned it off. It made me feel less aware, and somehow that felt worse. Around 2:30, I noticed something I hadn't before. The lot was so still that it didn't feel like a place anymore. It felt like a backdrop, like the building and the lights were the only real things, and everything past them was just space. My brain kept wanting to fill in the darkness with something. Movement, shapes. There weren't any. At 2:55, I didn't want to get out. Now, I did skip the 2 a.m. patrol, but I couldn't skip all of them. So I had to get out on this one. The sheet had to be filled out, and the company tracked the patrol via the cameras. So I forced myself to open the door. This time I didn't walk as far from the building lights. I checked my doors, checked the windows, looked for damage. This time nothing spoke, nothing moved, but the whole time I had the feeling of being watched from somewhere I couldn't point to. Not from the building, but from the dark beyond it. I didn't look too long and rushed back to the car. 3:07 a.m. I am ashamed to admit that I am scared and that I made that patrol go much faster than I should have. But I'm sitting here staring at the dashboard and I hear something. A child laughing. Not loud, not screaming, just a soft, breathy giggle, like a kid trying to not be heard. It came from outside the car. I didn't move at first. My brain rejected immediately. There were no houses, no playgrounds, no families anywhere near here. Hell, what child is going to be on the playground at 3 a.m.? But the laugh came again, a little stronger this time. I felt tears prick in the eyes, out of pure stress. Stop, I whispered to myself, or to whatever that was. I opened my front door. I still don't know why. I just did it out of instinct. The night air hit my face, cold and still. I stepped out, turning slowly in a full circle. Hello, my voice barely carried. Nothing. No footsteps, no rustling, no shapes moving between the lights. Just the empty lot, the building, and the fields beyond. The silence after that laugh felt heavier than any noise. I stood there for a full minute waiting for it to happen again, but it didn't. I got back in the car and locked the doors. My hands were shaking so hard I dropped the keys more than once. I didn't do the 4 a.m. patrol, or the 5 or the 6. I didn't care anymore. I just sat there until the sky started to turn gray. I finished a shift, drove back to the city in complete silence. The world looked normal again. Gas stations, traffic lights, people driving to jobs very early. I didn't feel normal, and I never went back. I found a different job a few weeks later. Indoors, around people, less pay, more noise, but I didn't care. Something about that night changed the way I feel about empty places. I don't like silence anymore. Quiet settings makes me anxious, and I avoid being out in nature after dark if I can help it. I've never applied for another security job since. It messed me up enough that I never even contacted the temp agency. I didn't turn in my time card to be paid, and I ignored all their calls. Part of me just wanted to pretend that night never happened. But lately, I've been thinking about it more, and I feel like I need to tell it, so I can finally move on. I still can't forget the sound of the pounding on the window, the woman's voice behind me, or that child laughing in the dark. I hope I never hear anything like that again.